really none of your business. It's none of my business.
Hello, bonjour, Falcha. Welcome to the Motivated Classroom August Spotlight. This is day 23 with the amazing and wonderful, brilliant Janique Vanderstocken, and it builds nicely on yesterday's one with Annabelle Williamson, La Maestra Loca, because she also mentioned brain breaks. If you don't know Janique, you need to get to know Janique. She is just fantastic. She's an inspirational educator. She's one of those people, when you see her teach Dutch, that you would wish you had her as your teacher, because you'd be like, if I had her for 1 year, I think I'd be pretty fluent in Dutch. She's just that good. And she won't mind me saying this. She's a grandmother. She mentioned that herself on the podcast. But to me, she just feels like that knowledgeable, sage, wise, older person who is someone I really look up to. And I hope when I get to be a grandfather one day, if that ever happens to me, that I will still have the energy and passion and incredible insight and evidence base and research base and love and compassion and empathy that Janique has, not just for her students, but for the teaching community. She is so active in the Agent workshop and does so many things for free around the technology side. She's just an amazing person. So I want to go back on some of the things Janique said in her episode. Now, this was an episode where we mainly spoke about teaching illiterate students or students with very low literacy levels. Janique mainly works with refugees, people who come to the Netherlands or to Belgium, in her case, who have very little Dutch, if any at all. And many of them don't have a first language that they can read and write in. They might be able to speak it and communicate, but they can't read and write. Or they may have a mix of different languages, and none of them are really like a native language. So I think one of the first things we spoke about, and this was just about the time when the war broke out in Ukraine and Russia, and we were talking about students coming to our classes with a lot of trauma. Now, sadly, that is something that is going to continue. Wars and awful things in the world are sadly going to keep happening, I think, for our entire career. And you will have people coming to you who are coming from awful situations for whatever reason that may be. And so it's important to really listen to this episode. So she says, first of all, you have to take the traumas in account, but at the same time, I want the traumas to stay outside my classroom door during the lesson, because that's important. My students tell me they like to come to the lesson for that reason, because they have to focus on my stories and we're laughing a lot. There's a lot of love in the classroom. They find that so important for them. It's a possibility to forget their problems for that time in the lesson. But of course, when I see that someone is quieter than normal, I'll talk to them during the break. I'll ask them if they want to stay longer. Then I talk to them. And just by me doing that, or recognizing they're having a hard time, it's enough for them to say, oh, my teacher has seen it and understands that it's difficult for me. So I thought that was really good, like to try and, while we acknowledge that these traumas are real, and of course, if they want to talk to you about them, that's fine, but we try and leave them outside and not bring them into the class. It's so that we can have a joyful moment in the class and just give them that 1 hour of joy when they're with you. And then she spoke about these cabinets or wardrobes she creates. So she's got two of them. So one is a dark cabinet and one is a bright one. And the dark cabinet is where they can put in the things in their life that are sad and their sorrows. And she starts off by saying, we all have sad things and sorrows. We're adults, we have our problems. So briefly, I tell them about mine, not in detail, but just to give some examples. I tell them that when we acquire language, it's important that we close the doors of our dark cabinet. I call it this dark cabinet with sorrows that we have to close the doors so that we can learn easily. Because if we keep them open, we'll keep thinking of our problems all the time. The first time I did it, I didn't realize it would have such an impact because they were all nodding their head. In the same lesson, I made another cabinet with flowers, which was the happy wardrobe. And I said, in here, you can put your dreams and whatever else you would like. So some of them were drawing their family, who would come to Belgium, or things that made them happy. Very simple things. And when you open this cabinet, you can do anything. And I tell them, open the doors of your cabinet and all your dreams can come true. Imagine your dreams come true. You can do anything until then the stories come out. Then they can imagine. They need this little support to make telling a story possible. I just get quite emotional actually just reading that, because it just makes me realize how lucky I am that, and many of us may be listening to this, that our bright cabinet is potentially much bigger than our sorrow cabinet. And for many of these people, they're coming from horrendous, awful situations. And the things that they'll have in their dream cabinet are the simplest things of just being able to eat with their family or being able to go for a walk and not feel threatened or things like that. Then we had some great chats about the fact that Janique teaches all in Dutch, in Flemish, and of course, there's no common language. She can't use English to translate back. And one of the things that stuck out was just Janique was talking about the use of technology and how important that can be. If there's an opportunity, if they've access to phones or computers, that allows them access to their own language to use that. But really importantly, she said right at the end, she uses her little website and technology to give them more inputs. So she can easily record herself telling really basic, simple stories using the same PowerPoint that she'd used in the class, but retelling it simply with the images. And then they can play that over and over again at home. And I think that is really key to take away for all of our students. Technology grants us this ability to give them way more inputs at a pace that we know works for them when we use our own voice, through screencasts, through little recordings. All of these things really help. And if there's stories and they're getting to re-listen to the story at home, it can just take 1 minute of you recording your PowerPoint in your voice and with your little picture on it or not, and they can listen back to that and, make summaries or answer questions or write down important words if it's in our secondary context, or for these students, just simply listen. And then we talked about things that can go wrong when you're trying to work a lot with images and you can't translate to a common language. She says one of her mantras is that anything that they can understand wrongly, they will. So she uses a background remover for images. So she has an image of a cow, usually it would typically be in a field with the fence or the clouds in the sky, but she uses background remover to take all that away. So it's just the cow, so they can understand this is the word for cow. And then she talked about how she builds up to the sentence level. She says, you need to do so much more than you might do with a student who has literacy already. And she gives this incredible example of the sun. She says, if I say to you, draw the sun, almost all of us will draw the same thing. And it's because we've seen it in hundreds and thousands of books over our lifetime, drawn like that. And that's how we know the sun looks. It's a yellow ball, or it's got the lines coming out. And as soon as someone does that, we know immediately that's the sun. But if you've grown up when no one was reading to you your whole life and you've never seen a book, you don't know what that looks like. You don't know that that's the sun, the circle with the lines, these really simple things. So she says, I like to do story listening. And I like that a lot because drawing makes you tell slower. I first show a picture though. For instance, I showed a picture of a cow, then I start drawing the cow. And I point to the picture, I'm drawing the head of the cow, I'm drawing the tail of the cow, I'm pointing to the picture. They hear the word over and over and over again while I'm drawing it. And again, you have the benefit of the picture and you have the benefit of your drawing. So in many story listening, we just draw, but she uses this benefit of using an image from the internet as well, so that they've really got that. And then she builds up to the sentence level by basically putting these pictures into sentences. So she's saying what they hear is just a cacophony of sounds. It's very difficult to distill the words in a sentence. So I put these pictures like a little puzzle and I make them into a line. So every word is its own picture. It becomes a sentence they can see. And then they're like, oh, that's a word. So they can start to break these things down. And she uses that for her understanding as well. And finally, just drawing on from Annabelle's episode, La Maestra Loca, she talked a lot about brain breaks. She said, I use brain breaks like total physical response. I put music on, we have to walk, then I'll shout something like point to the window, they have to do it. And then I'll say something else, point to the floor, they have to do it. And I always use words from my story to see, can they understand immediately, or do I need to go back over that again? So please go back and listen to this. And I'll end with just Janique's lovely quote about low literacy levels, which we will all face. We were all born illiterate, yet we all acquired the language way before we could read or write. So why should illiterate people not acquire language if we all did this? I think the most important thing to keep in your head when you're teaching illiterate people is that just because they have low literacy levels does not mean they can't acquire language. We've all done it. And I think that's a really important thing to take away. So, dankjewel. Thank you so much, Janique, and sending you a big